We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Sameches Amid Beis and Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 168b. On the previous Amud, the Mishnah said that if a person has a shtar and the shtar gets erased, so if you have witnesses who know what was written in the shtar, they can come before Bezdin and they can testify to what was written in the shtar, and they conclude their testimony, uploni, edav, and so and so and so and so. They were the witnesses on the original shtar. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabban and the rabbis taught, Eizahu Kiyuma, what is the certification that we do, again, in a situation where a shtar was erased and we have to write up a new document testifying to the contents of that shtar? They write as follows, B'mos of Tlosa, Havina anu ploni, in front of three people, and they list the three judges, Ploni, Hotzi, Ploni ben Ploni, shtar mochik lefanenu, so-and-so, he took out a shtar that was erased in front of us, Biyom Ploni, edav, it was on this particular day, and these are the witnesses that were there. This is all what they write up in the document. V'im kasabo, now if this certification, if it's written into it, who's kaknu le'edusan shel edim, v'nimtses edusan mechuvenes, let's say it says that we actually investigated the testimony of the witnesses of the original document, and we found that the testimony was good. If that's written in this certification document from the judges, so then gova, then you can actually use that document to collect. Ve'eno tzarech lavirai, you don't need any further evidence. V'im lav, but if this is not written in there, so then already tzarech lavirai, then the person is going to need to bring further evidence, because all that's being testified to is what was written in the document, but you haven't actually certified that the document is not a forgery. That's why further evidence will be needed. And the Rashbam explains, Umafarish Gemara, the Gemara explains, Kasav Bo, who's kakno, if it says in this document that, again, we investigated this, and it is a good document, Sha'amdu Elu Bezdin HaMekaimen, meaning this Bezdin, which is certifying this document, they got up, V'chakru Edem HaChasum Bo, and they investigated the witnesses who were signed on the original document, L'hoyd Al-Chasim Masad, to testify about their signatures, V'nimsu Divrei Mechuvonim, and it turned out that what they were saying was true, so then Gova Mizman Rishon HaKasav B'shtar, then you're able to collect from the first date that's written in the document. Vein tzarech raya acher, so you don't need any further evidence. V'im la, but if this is not written in there, tzarech lavi raya acher, so you're going to need further evidence. Al hazman, in terms of the date. V'al skum hamos, in terms of the amount of money. V'al kol ma'ashayav kasa b'shtar, in terms of all of the details that are written in the document. And the Brisa continues, nikra posel, if you have a document that was torn intentionally, that's disqualified, but niskara, but let's say it's ripped, that was unintentional, kosher, that's still going to be kosher. Nimchak, if a document is erased, or netashte, let's say it's smudged, imri shumo nikra, if the words are still legible, kosher, then it is kosher. And the Gemara continues and asks, Hechi dami nikra, hechi dami niskara, what's the difference exactly between torn intentionally or just ripped unintentionally? Amar Rav Yehuda says, nikra keresh el bezdin. When we say that it's nikra, that it was torn intentionally, that means it was torn up by the court. That means to say it's a disqualified document that can no longer be used. Niskara, but let's say it was just ripped unintentionally, that's keresh eno shel bezdin, that's if it got torn, but it wasn't ripped up by bezdin, then it is still going to be kosher. And the Gemara continues, Hechi dami keresh el bezdin, how exactly does bezdin tear up a document? Amar Rav Yehuda says, Makom edim umakom hazman umakom hatorah. If they tear up the area where the edim are signed, they tear up the area of the date, and they tear up the Torah. The Torah is what contains the main contents of the shtar in terms of the people involved and those details. Abaye says, Shasiva Erev. The way that bezdin would tear a shtar is Shasiva Erev, which essentially is they would tear it like an X. And the Gemara continues, Hanu arvoy da'asu lepumbedisa. There were some Arabs that came to Pumbedisa. They were forcing people to give away their land, and they would take from the people the document, the deed as well. So the owners of the land, they came before Abaya. Amarle, and they said to him, Lichzi mar shtare, v'lichtov lan mar shtare achrino aleh. Let the master look at our shtar, and then we'll write another shtar. We'll have like a backup document, a backup deed. The imitnes chad, nekatinan chad biyad. And that way, if they force us, if these Arabs who are taking away the property and the documents, if they take away one of the deeds, we'll have another one in our possession as a backup. Amar lahu, so he said to them, Abaya said back to these individuals, My avid lahu, well, what can I do for you? The Amar of Safra, because Rav Safra already said, Ein kozven shnei shtaros al sada achas, you can't have two documents on one field. Dil matarif v'hadar tarif, because we're afraid that a person will then be able to claim, and then he'll be able to claim again, meaning collect collect again. And the concern over here is that if a person has two deeds to a field, whenever a person buys a field, he usually buys it. The seller usually takes achrayus, usually takes responsibility that the seller is going to reimburse the buyer if it gets taken away by a creditor, or let's say someone takes it away and says it doesn't really belong to the seller. And then what happens is the buyer, when he goes to get reimbursed, if he's not able to get money back directly from the seller, he produces the deed and he actually takes property from anyone who subsequently bought property from the seller. Now, if the person has two deeds, he'll be able to do that twice. That's problematic. And therefore, Abaye said, I can't write you a second shtar because then you're going to have two deeds on one field, and that opens up this problem. And so the Gemara continues, tar delay. But they were bothering Abaye, they were badgering him to get a second document. So Amar Leila Safre, so Abaye said to his scribe, Zil Kosav Lahu, Hu al Hamechak, V'edav al Haniyor, go write them a document, but write them a disqualified document. Write them a document where the actual text is written on erased part of the paper, and the witnesses are signed on the unerased part of the paper, the puzzle, because that's disqualified, so then it won't be a problem to write it for them, and they'll start, and then they'll stop bothering me. Amar le Ravacha bar Menyume li Abaye, but Ravacha bar Menyume said to Abaye, V'dilma rishumo nikr, but maybe if you're going to write the document twice, because he understood that Abaye was saying write the whole document, then erase it, and then write it over again. But maybe that original writing will be rishumo nikr, maybe it will still be legible, you'll still be able to see what's written. V'tanyan, we learned in the Brisa above, nimchak on the tashtesh, that if a document is erased or if it's smudged, im rishumo nikr kosher, as long as the words are legible, it's kosher. So erasing is not going to help in writing it again, because if you can still see the original, it's going to be kosher. So Amar Lei, so he said back to him, Abaye responded, Miko Amina Shtar Amalia, do you think I was saying to write the whole shtar twice? That the first time you write the shtar and then you write the shtar again after you erase? That's not what I meant at all. Aleph base bi alma kamin, I just meant write the aleph base, then erase it, that makes it erased paper, then you'll write the document again. If you have the document on erased paper and the witnesses are signed on the unerased part, that is not kosher, and that will be a way to get them to stop badgering me. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, Haresha Bo v'yomar, if a lender comes and he says, V'avad shtar chovi, I lost my shtar chov, I can't collect the debt which I am owed, Afal bisha amru edim, even though witnesses say, Anu kasavnu v'chasavnu, unesananu lo, that we did write this document, we signed the document, we gave it to him, there actually was a loan, Ein kos v'lo es hashtar, we don't write for him a new document. And the Rashbam explains, Avad shtar chovi v'chasvu li acher tachtav, he's asking that they write another document in its place, kechol hakosav barishon, like everything that was written in the first document. And the Rashbam says, Uchagon she'ein lo edim. Now the case over here is there are no witnesses she'avad mimenu, that he actually lost the document. So for all we know, he really has the original document. Kasavnu nesanunu lo. Again, the witnesses testify, we did write the original document, we gave it to the lender, there was a loan. To lekal lememar shemakasav lolavas v'lo lava. You can't say that maybe they wrote it up to borrow money, but there actually was no loan. There definitely was a loan, but still you don't write him a new one. And when is this true? The Brisa goes on and says, B'amed devarim amurim, when is it true that we don't write him a new shtar? B'shtare halva, that's true by documents that involve loans. And the Rashbam explains, B'shtare halva, afilu imbo lichtov chutz me'achrayis shabo, even if they write him a new document, and they don't write achrayis in there, so he can only collect from the borrower, he can't collect from anyone who bought property from the borrower. Ein kosvin, even that you don't write. Even if he's just going to collect from the borrower, it's a problem. Ta'asu l'mitraf be'mi b'nei chori, because he's going to use the new document to collect from the free property, meaning the property that the borrower actually has. V'shem aloav harishon, and now maybe the lender didn't actually lose the first one. Inami dil mechazor matzor, or maybe he did lose it, but he's going to find it again. V'tarif v'hadar tarif, now he'll be able to collect twice. So that's already obviously problematic. That's why we don't write a new document. But that's true by shtari halva. Aval shtari mekachum memkar. But let's say a person says that he lost a document which said that he bought a particular piece of property. So then already kosvin, we can write him a new document, chutz min achrayis shabo, as long as we exclude the achrayis, as long as we exclude the lien, so we don't allow him to use this deed to collect from buyers. Let's say he goes ahead and the property is taken away by a creditor of the seller, and so now he goes to the seller to be reimbursed. The seller doesn't have money, so now he might be able to use this deed to go get from a buyer, someone who bought subsequent property from a seller. That would be problematic because he might have two documents, but as long as we exclude that achrayis, it's not going to be a problem. So we'll write him a new document, that says that he did buy the property, and we'll say that there's no achrayus, there's no lien for this new document. And the Rashbam explains, Aval b'shtori mekach umemker, when it comes to documents of sale, imamru edim kasavnu nesanu lo, again the witnesses testify, we did write this for him, we gave it to him, he definitely bought the property, kozvin lo acher chutz me'achrayus, but we write him a new document, and we just don't put achrayus in that new document. Me'acher she'emes hadavar shezeh hakarka kanelo, since it's true, we know for sure that he owns the land, v'hu yare pen yishtaka hadavar v'yaru olav shelo kedin, and he's afraid, of course, that again people will protest that he doesn't own the land, kozvin lo shtar mekach below achrayus, so we write him a shtar mekach without a lien, kidim efarsh l'kamon, like we'll explain further on, later on, shtar denan dechosvenoi delo lemigvi bey, lo mi mashavdi v'lo mi bnei chori, it's a document, it's just attesting to the fact that he owns the property, but it's not going to be used for collection, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Samech Tes Amud Aleph.